Welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Lives. I am coming to you today with some Thursday thoughts. And this might be a little weird. This episode might be a little weird for some people, but I am reading this fascinating book and I am going through a spiritual journey, and I am committed to sharing all the things I'm learning with my audience because what this stuff is doing for me is really making me have a whole new view of the world and of people that I come into contact with and of myself and of my soul. And it's been just an amazing period over the past, it's about 2 years now that I've been on this really deep personal journey. And it's really accelerated in 2020. I don't know if it has something to do with the pandemic. It's quite possible, but I haven't been personally affected by the pandemic. My life's been pretty much the same. I just work from home. I will say I've been by myself or with my husband and myself more. I've not been getting out and going out as much as I normally did pre-pandemic. So maybe that's part of it. I've had more time to contemplate. And this book that I've been reading, it's called A Happy Pocket Full of Money. And it's been recommended to me prior for quite some time, in fact. Sounds like a simple little book. I finally bought it. I was ready for a new personal development book, and it's been eye-opening. I don't know what other words to use. It's been kind of shocking. It is much more complex than I had thought because the word or the title of A Happy Pocket Full of Money sounds super, super simple. It's really quantum physics, but it's dumbed down for the average person like me, which is great because I wasn't a science geek. I was more of the English person, and science is a little scary to me, science and math. But again, that's my own limiting beliefs speaking. But I wanted to share it because I did an episode a couple weeks ago about my quiz and about the fact that I've identified these different roles that people play in life that hold them back. And one of the roles, I say, actually, I've played like 3 of them or 4 of them, I think, out of the 5. And so one of them was the predominant one, and it's a busy doer. And a lot of people who respond to the quiz are busy doers. And I thought this episode and what I'm learning in this book would help some of the busy doers out there to really understand that the busy doing is really you creating this world that you're living in, where you feel like you have no control of time, that time is really made up, and this is crazy. So there's the chapter 3, they get right into it, or he gets right into it. The author is David Cameron Gakandi. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it is The Truth About Time. The name of the chapter is The Truth About Time, it does not exist. So how's that for a concept? And it starts out with, time is a funny thing, a very funny thing. The biggest trick time ever played on us was to make us think it was real and that we were under its full control. Yet time is a complete illusion, a strong and persistent illusion. So I highlighted many things in the chapter, and I wanted to touch base on those, but I also wanted to share my own perspective before I even started this book on how time trapped me. Been a workaholic, was always a workaholic most of my life. And I still have tendencies towards that. I have to be careful. My workaholism right now is because I love what I do and I want to help people. And so I'm very addicted to the feeling of wanting to help as many people as I can. But before, my busyness was in some ways to suppress thoughts because I wasn't doing what I really wanted to do. I wasn't that happy in what I was doing. And what I've come to learn is that it was, in a sense, a numbing of the reality that I was in. But I also have tendencies of being a little bit of a control freak. And we really have no control. So that's the funny thing. So it is an illusion. Control is an illusion. Just like they say time is, or he says time is an illusion. So I would think I would have control when in fact I didn't, but I felt more secure the more I was in control. But time was one thing I never had really any control over. It ran me. And so what I learned as I started to expand my mind and my perspective and learn more about getting in touch with our inner self, our higher self, some people call it, our soul. What I learned is the less you do, the more time you have, the more experience of more time you have, because like I said, it's an illusion. So if it's an illusion, then it's how we perceive it. It's how we perceive it. And so while I always perceived it as there's never enough, that was something that I created. And once I started to meditate, once I started to get quiet with my thoughts and journal things, the more I created a perception of more time, which is really crazy. And that I felt like I never felt productive before. I always felt like I wasn't getting enough done. And now I have this overwhelming feeling of being so productive. In fact, I measure my productivity every day. It's something that I do. I measure my productivity and my energy because they're kind of intertwined. And so what I found is that I don't even think there's certainly not more 20, there's not more hours in the day. That's a fact. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, even if it's an illusion. But I have the same 24 hours in a day that I had prior to me starting to meditate and starting to get more quiet and get more in touch with my inner self. Yet I get more done than I have ever gotten done and feel so good about it. So it's quite interesting now that I read this book and what he's saying. And some people who open up this book and they haven't kind of gone through the last couple of years of personal growth that I've gone through, it might be like totally like crazy stuff. So I'm just preparing you. If you start to read this book and you think like this is nuts, then there's probably some other work you need to do before. Just maybe close the book and put it on a shelf, and then start to do some inner work and then go back to it. So some of these concepts are be kind of crazy, but the thing that it says about the concept of the way we think time controls us, once you understand that it is an illusion, you can recreate it as you wish, consciously and deliberately, instead of unconsciously and accidentally. Because so many of us walk through the world just unconscious of how we're using our time, and it's not being done in a deliberate and conscious fashion, which I loved that. It also talks about the concept of past, present, and future. I remember back when I started, I guess my journey's been a little bit longer than the last couple of years. I've always been a little curious and interested. I remember, and I've probably mentioned this on a previous podcast, but I loved the Eckhart Tolle and Oprah did this webinar back in 2007. I remember because I was going through my divorce, and he had a book called The Power of Now, but this webinar was on his newer book. It was called A New Earth. And Eckhart Tolle is very out there in his concepts. I wasn't even ready for, I remember buying The Power of Now, and it's not a very thick book. And I remember Oprah, I think it was on one of her book clubs, and I remember trying to read it and I couldn't even understand it. It was like, I don't even think I got through the first chapter. So that was very early in my spiritual journey. So the webinar that they did, now I think I bought the book, but I really didn't read it. I just kind of followed along with the webinar, because when they talked about it and when she interviewed him in these webinars, I remember they did 10 over 10 weeks. And they were like an hour and a half each. And the days before really webinars were a thing. And she did it on Monday nights. I'll never forget. It was just like so powerful for me. Some of these concepts were it was like the first time I was really hearing them. So I was in my late 40s, and I just remember that, he talks about the power of now, the power of present. And it was easier for me to understand when they had a conversation about it versus me trying to read it and understand it. So, but this goes into the past, present, and future. One of the things that it says is make now the best moment of your life ever. Dwell in now. Because so much of our life we spend dwelling on past stuff. I sometimes call it baggage. It's things that we've done that we regret, or things that we've done that we wished we did differently. I mean, how many times have you relived something thinking, I wished I had done it differently? Well, why? It's like, talk about a waste of time. It's gone. It's done. It's over. I remember for me, one of the things that I relived over and over and over again, and it caused me a lot of really, I think, anxiety, brought a lot of anxiety in my life, is that my oldest daughter almost died of a pulmonary embolism. She actually had two. She had pulmonary emboli. It's actually called emboli when there's more than one. And she could have easily died. It was just by sheer luck of circumstance, with several things happening at once, that somebody was home when it happened, and that we got the ambulance there quickly. We got her to the right hospital. Just a number of things happened that could have been devastating had it not rolled out the way it did. It was the night before her 21st, well, like the night, 2 nights before she was going to be, the next night, by the way, she was going to go out with a bunch of friends to celebrate her 21st birthday. And if that had happened and she had had too much to drink and she'd had it, this is another thing I kept reliving. They probably would have thought, oh, she's just passed out. She drank too much. Meanwhile, she would have died from the pulmonary emboli. So we were very, very fortunate that it happened when it did. And her sister was home, which was another coincidence. Her father was not too far away, was able to get there quickly. So a number of things. So the reason I bring this up is because I relived it a zillion times in my head. Like, if she had died, if this had happened, she would have died. If this would have happened, she would have died. And how many times do something really bad happens and they relive it? Like, what if it didn't happen? I mean, anything that you can think of in the past can be rehashed over and over and over again. Like mistakes at work that you made, or relationship mistakes you made. You wished you hadn't done that. When you do that, you rob yourself of today. All that matters really is today. And the same with the future. And that, like, if you think about it, how many people worry about something that they think might happen that actually doesn't even happen? I think the statistic is like 99.9% of the time, what you worry about never even comes true. And that 0.1% that you worry about, you probably manifested into your life, because that's what you're putting out in the universe, and that's what you're attracting back to yourself. So you don't want to worry about what you don't want to happen, because if you know anything about manifestation, the thoughts that you're thinking are what the universe tries to get to you. And so you want to think good things, but you only have control over the now. And so doesn't it make sense that you would make now the best moment ever, the best moment of your life that you could possibly make it? And so sit with that and see what you think. But so some of the things in this book were so powerful. I have so many, I'm on video. I do these on YouTube, but you can see, I mean, this is just one page and all the highlights that I have on it. But this one passage that I thought was so powerful was, do you feel as if you do not have enough time to do what you wish to do? People short of time on the outside are short of it on the inside. They act, think, and speak from a belief that they are short of time. Stop thinking and saying you do not have enough time. Do not believe that for a second. The universe has no shortages of anything, including time, and neither do you. The only limitations in shortages are those that you build for yourself. Believing in any sort of shortage makes your consciousness smaller and slower so that you may experience what you believe in. How about that? So basically, if you are short on time, it's because you're creating that reality for yourself. How's that? And you can argue for your circumstances all you want, but what I know, and I've seen proof of it, I know that I have more time, or at least experience the concept of more time, because I do less now. I spend more time thinking and experiencing than now. I meditate, I journal, I get quiet. I was so busy, 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 busy. I didn't like quiet time. I didn't want to have any 5 minutes of quiet time. My comfort zone was busy. But I think it's just really important that if you're super, super busy, if you test out on my quiz as a busy doer, try to experience being quiet and still, and experiencing that quietness, and see what comes up, because you will start to think of things that will offer solutions to your busy life. How about that? What if your busyness is creating so many blocks in your mind that you can't even see your way out of busyness? What if you got so quiet that your soul started to show you a different way? How about that? And that is really where the answer is. The answers lie within, but you have to get quiet to hear them. And the busyness is just this fantasy that has been created, because seriously, you have the same 24 hours in a day that everybody has. So why are some people good with time? Why are some people have all the time in the world? It's not because they're more organized. It's because they are better experiencers of the now, and more at peace with their concept of time. They're not trying to control time, or be accidental about time. So the other thing that I wanted to mention, so I say I pulled cards. So I thought I did want to talk about this. This was a subject that I wanted to bring up, because I think for those of you that are like the old me, that the busy doer is really kind of overwhelming your life. And I want you to know that there's a way out, and you can find it. And so maybe this will just be a start of hearing this, and maybe you want to get the book and start to learn more about this crazy quantum physics stuff. But don't feel that you can't change. You can't change your life and solve this problem that really is holding you back in so many ways from really being the happiest version of you. Because when you're busy and you're not, and you're always feeling in this time crunch, and you're always feeling frazzled, and you're always feeling stressed. I mean, all these words I'm sure come up. I know that's how I felt. Anxious. That's not your happiest self. That's not living your best life. So these just be open to these concepts, just be open to learning how you can maybe navigate differently. But I did pull a card because I said, okay, I do want to talk about this, but let me pull a card and see if anything comes up intuitively based on the card I pulled. Maybe, there'll be another subject that is more important. So I love pulling these cards, as you know. So I pulled this card and it's walking away. It's got this woman walking through a gate away. I love these cards. So when I looked it up, I was like, it didn't really connect because it said this card, it says when it starts off, but then I read a little more and I was like, aha. It says this card shows someone walking away from an existing situation. She is closing the gate behind her and is walking away into a misty, unknown future. This card, it could be as time for you to make a similar decision. So it goes on a little bit about going in a different direction, but then it says this. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is so related. It said, this card also indicates that now would be a good time to let go of an old habit, emotional pattern, or false belief. No matter how deeply ingrained a negative pattern may be, you now have the power to release it and move on to a freer, healthier way of thinking and relating to yourself and others. Oh, isn't that crazy? I mean, here I am talking about this pattern, this old habit, this pattern of being a busy doer and walking away from that negative pattern. That's the intuitive hit I got. I was like, of course, that's the message, is that I need to share this and I need to say that it's a negative pattern to be so busy that you don't have time to get in touch with your inner self and enjoy the present moment. So let me see if there's any other things. I did put a couple other arrows, so I'm going to breeze through here to see. Yes. So the couple other passages that I just want to leave you with. Time only exists in your mind. Your mind often wants to live in anticipation of the future or in memory of the past. So that is why you're always wanting to remember what happened, and you always want to dream about what you want in the future, right? So the mind tends to go there and doesn't appreciate the present. It says the most fruitful thing to do is not to remember or wait, because past is remembering and future is waiting. And you want to observe instead. You want to observe, experience, and create, because those things happen in the now. Observation, having experiences, and creation is in the now. That's where the power is. Isn't that great? Oh, I love this. It's so crazy. So that is what I'm going to leave you with. Hopefully this wasn't too like woo-woo, but this is so life-changing. It's been so life-changing for me to just understand that you don't have to be busy all the time. And when you stop and literally smell the roses and experience the now, life opens up in ways you would have never thought possible. And that's my wish for you. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning into the Not Your Average Lives podcast. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe on iTunes if you have an Apple device. You can find free resources and learn what else I have going on at the moment that might interest you on my website at notyouraveragegrandma.com. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook at Not Your Average Grandma. If you liked this episode, it would make my heart so happy if you could leave me a 5-star rating. You can also add a review to let me know what you like about this podcast, which will help spread the word about it to others who need a little midlife inspiration. As always, be you, listen to your inner voice, and focus on reigniting that lost spark so you can start living your own Not Your Average life.